Mr. John Crumpler, it's good to have you back. I wouldn't call you here if there was something important that we need to talk about, and that is this offense, man. It has been disappointing because there was a lot of expectations coming in from the quarterback, from Pep Hamilton to the O-line, and the only bright spot is number 31, and that's really just about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an underwhelming performance across the board for Houston's offense to start the season, and there's not a fun way to sugarcoat it. I think Davis Mills is not playing the caliber of football we expected coming in, especially down the field where there was room for so much optimism last year. He's really struggled to be accurate, 10 plus yards. I mean, the offensive line, I actually think they played overall well, but the ill-timed penalties, man. I mean, especially against Los Angeles, I thought that really manifested. And then Pep Hamilton with play calling that's so predictable, he called himself out today during his own press conference and said, I think defenses know what we're doing when Rex Burkhead is out there. And it's like, well, all the fans watching know, so I bet the defensive coordinators do too. What have been your general thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts have been number one, like like with Pep, I see no creativity. I mean, I guess when you run your two tackles all the way wide and bring them back in, that's the most, creativity that we've seen, and also the Driscoll about it, and the offensive line. I do think they are better running the ball and they are better in pass protection, but there are key moments in the game where they shut down. And it's like penalties, right? It was the Kenyon Green that wiped out the throw to Brandon Cooks. The week before that against the Bears, it was the Lerm call that wiped out a huge red zone. And then you look at Davis Mills and you're like, the progression that we saw from your beginning of your rookie season to when you got benched and came back, it's not there. You are throwing to Nico Collins like he's 10 feet. You look frantic, and it's just like, I don't know what happens. Maybe the pressure's getting to him.
I mean, it appears multifactorial of Mills, and we've touched on all of it. Sometimes the supporting cast isn't helping him. Sometimes I do think the play calling's been a little vanilla, a little predictable. It really does look like the run-first offense that Lovie Smith preached it would be, and not the Pep Hamilton, oh, we're going to score first, our job's to score points, innovative scheme that we were hoping for. And then at other times, it's just Davis. I wonder if defenses are kind of forcing him into different looks, but it doesn't appear that way, at least when I watch through. Then it looks like he's kind of forcing throws last year that were pretty routine for him, and he just hasn't come through thus far. Ironically, I think the best throw that he's made all season was against LA when they were getting blown out. He has that 58-yard bomb to Nico Collins, and that's a franchise quarterback throw, man. And he follows that up with a dime to hit Brandon Cooks in the end zone. And it's just, where is that confidence at the beginning of games? And also, where is that willingness to attack? So I kind of hurt for Davis because I want him to succeed and I want him to do well. But at the end of the day, despite everything going on, it just hasn't been good enough right now that the team – they kind of do have to ask questions about the quarterback position moving forward.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that Mills has shown flashes of being that guy, right? The first 3 quarters of the Colts game, you're looking at Davis Mills like, this is exactly what the hell we want. And, now he makes some good throws, but he has yet to play a complete 4 quarters. And, he kind of came alive against the Chargers. They did something that they haven't done all season. Quarter, right? Previously they were outscored 30. So it was good to get that, that monkey off your back there. But it's like, you need 4 quarters. There's 13 games left. This is an audition for you, Davis Mills. And that's kind of sad to say that this game against the 17th game as a starter, and we're already having the conversations if you're the guy or not.
Yeah, I think this game coming up is huge, and people might not realize how difficult of a game it's going to be. Jacksonville's pass rush, 4 games in, they look like one of the league's best. They're going to make Mills work for everything he's going to get, and it'll kind of challenge especially some of the limitations, maybe not limitations, but I've questioned this year, how does he navigate the pocket? We've seen him take sacks against 3- and 4-man pressures that he really has no business taking. And if you do that against Jacksonville, they're going to make you pay. So he's going to have to get the ball out quick. He's going to have to be accurate because also Trevor Lawrence and that Jaguars offense, they're scoring points. It looks really good over there.
Yeah, not only that, Christian Kirk has look like he's earned every bit of that $80 million contract. Another,
100%.
disappointing part of this offense has been Brandon Cooks. And it's like he's been dropping balls, something he rarely does. He disappears sometimes during the game. Against the Bears, he was just blanketed, right? There was no separation. And this was something that you were talking about, John, right? His supporting him. There was also a statistic that the Houston Texans dropped the fourth most balls. So that's why we were saying this whole offense as a whole has been disappointing, not just the quarterback.
Yeah, for Cooks, it's been a bit puzzling because the team did decide to reward him this offseason with that 2-year contract that I believe averaged $19 million per year. And what we've seen is a guy who is not separating at the same level. We're seeing drops that, although I think Davis Mills has to throw a better ball sometimes, when we're talking about Brandon Cooks, we need him to make those catches, especially you go to the Chicago game. People say Mills has to throw a better ball. I say your $19 million receiver has to come in with that one. And it does look like, although Mills isn't always finding his guys when they're open, as a whole, you question how frequently are they really helping him out right now?
So the question that, that it's on everyone's mind is like, is it done already for Davis Mills? There's still 13 games left in the season, right? We hear people say, I want Driscoll thrown in. I want Kyle Allen thrown in. I don't think they should bench Davis Mills. I think that if you want to lose games, you're already doing it, right? Will Anderson or Bryce Young's going to be there at number 1 overall. But also, there is 30, right? It's crazy how that one extra game just does so much for this team because Davis Mills could still shoot 13 games. And it's like you're I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even if they keep losing, if he just plays a little more consistently, if the offense can score some more points, dude, relax. They can finish dead last. And if you do what you need to do, what they need to show you, we all know this is a talent deficient team. And I think Davis Mills still has a ton of time. He's got 4 months to show Houston that he can be their franchise quarterback because we all see the ceiling. We see the high level throws that he makes. It's about, hey, can we eliminate some of those floor plays and can we raise the overall consistency of his play? Because I can see a world where Houston finishes with the number 1 pick, but if Davis Mills plays like he played in that 4th quarter against Los Angeles, if they can play like they played during that first half against Indianapolis, where Nick Caserio says, I'm taking Will Anderson, I'm taking this sure thing, why would I move on a quarterback right now? But that's going to require some change right now because up to this point, I think it would be hard to pass on taking a franchise quarterback at the top of the draft with what he's shown.
No, yeah, 100%. Right. It's going to be hard to press up on Young or Stroud. We like Bryce Young a little bit more, but before we get on to him, you look at the Eagles and everyone was clamoring for Jalen Hurts to be traded. And everyone was saying, get him out of here. And now look at the way he's playing in year 3, right? You look at Josh Allen was horrible his first 2 years, looks fantastic in year 3. There is a develop have to wait for. I hope that Davis Mills can get to it.
Yeah, and I think those two guys have some things in common that Davis Mills isn't going to have. The first thing I would point to is Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts during their second year before they hit those year 3 breakouts. Their teams made the playoff. I think Houston fans will well remember second-year Josh Allen choking away a playoff game that Houston shouldn't have won, just giving up 20-yard sack to J.J. Watt. It felt like he handed the Texans the game on a platter. And then Jalen Hurts also brought the Eagles to the playoffs. I thought they had a little more stability in coaching. And then finally, a thing I point to when we talk about Hurts and Allen versus Davis Mills right now as a comp is they were mobile. So while they were trying to learn the game and learn the nuances of how NFL passing schemes work, getting the timing of how narrow those windows are, they had their legs to rely on. Both of those guys account for a huge percentage of their team's rushing attacks. And Davis doesn't have that crutch right now. And I think that's one of the things that I kind of keep coming back to with Davis Mills. I really like him as a prospect and as a potential guy, but the best quarterbacks in this league all have one elite trait they can rely on consistently. Hurts, it looks like his legs. Josh Allen is an elite runner, but also that arm is huge, and it creates more windows for him. It's a question of what is Mills' elite trait that we're waiting on that would justify a third season compared to those two guys who I'd say, hey, Hurts can run. That opens up what you do with the offense. Hey, Josh Allen can beat cover 2 by just zipping the ball in between windows. I think that's something to consider while we ask, yes, Mills is going to get better, but what is the ceiling and compared to some of the other guys who got to wait their turn?
And, the only person who was going to ask Mills. Now, last but not least, John, since we are on this, quarterback discussion, you are 0-3-1 when you look at where the Texans are potentially drafting. It says number 1 overall. And I can tell you right now, you have put me on one guy, and that is Bryce Young. And I watched that Bama game that you told me to watch, and I could tell you he has an elite arm. His frame is kind of concerning, right? It says he's 5'9", 189. But I love the fact that he's able to run, but he chooses not to. That's his last thing that he is going to do. His first thing is making the throw. I'm hype, man. I would love to see him in that red, white, and blue.
Yeah, Bryce Young is definitely my QB1 right now, although CJ Stroud may be half a hair behind. They're both going to be franchise quarterbacks in this league, I think. When we talk about Bryce, let's work our way from the bottom up. Yes, the frame is concerning. Bama has him listed at 6 foot 190, and from people I'm talking to, I think he could come in even shorter. They think he might be closer to 5'10" than he is to 6 feet. And how is that going to hold up? He hadn't been injured before, but this past week against Arkansas, we did see he had the AC joint, which just sucks because that could happen to any quarterback falling forward. But with Bryce, the injury questions are going to come. You said he had an elite arm. I'm not sure I would go there, but what he does have is plenty of arm strength, and that I'm not worried about it. That's definitely not going to be a tick about him. But then everything else about Bryce Young is elite. His ball placement, how he reads the field, and especially how he navigates the pocket. Things can be collapsing around Bryce, and he's cool as a cucumber, which I love. People are going to point to him playing at Alabama, but if you look at this current Crimson Tide team, I don't think he's playing with near the caliber of players that he had last year. I don't think he's playing with the receivers that Mac Jones or Tua Tagovailoa had during their time with the Crimson Tide, and he's still playing at an elite level. So I love Bryce Young, and we'll see how the process fares for him. It's going to be big that he gets back on the field, I think, and get kind of put away those injury concerns. Obviously, as we approach the combine, we're going to need to see exactly how big he is. But you're not going to see a better quarterback in college football right now. And if you don't believe me, go watch that Georgia defense that had 5 first-round defensive picks last year and what he did in the SEC championship game, and with really his second string receivers last year in the national championship, guys he hadn't gotten to practice with, and tell me that he's not elite or as good as they're going to come out from the college level.
And in that Georgia game, you talked about his poise. When they were down, his face was stone cold. When they were up, his face was stone cold. He was, leading this, the Alabama offense. He had a good connection with John Minchie the whole day. I wouldn't mind that here on Sundays, but I love the fact that but there is a potential chance the Houston Texans can end up with a franchise QB at the end of the year, depending on how this season plays out. And we haven't even talked about the other pick that we are getting from the Cleveland Browns. They just lost to the Falcons, and it's like their schedule for the next couple of weeks is damn hard.
Yeah, I think the Browns, they look like they're in a lot of trouble. And that could be a high pick for Houston to go out. And right now, I think Houston, we need a lot of things, but you could get a wide receiver one. Even if it's just in the early mid-teens, you could get a really good receiver with that pick. You could get a great defensive lineman, or probably with the way linebackers have been drafted the past 2 years, maybe you could get the number 1 linebacker in the class in that mid-range. Whatever Houston's needs are right now, which is, their talent and figuring out the quarterback situation, we're going to have a good idea by the end of the season, because we know the 2023 draft is coming, and either Davis Mills is going to continue to elevate his game and show us, hey, you got to give me a third year, which I would love to see, or I think we'll see the opposite, and it says, okay, it's time for Houston to spend that first pick on a Bryce Young, on a CJ Stroud. But it's just reassuring I think it's been hard the past few years of no first-round picks when we see the deficiencies on the team. There hasn't been an avenue to fix it. And I think for as bad as the team is right now, the deficiencies, there's an avenue to fix it, and they're coming. So hopefully the young guys can continue to grow, especially the current rookie class, and we just kind of wait and see.
Yeah, real quick, like right before let you go, right? You were speaking of linebackers. Harris was activated, has been in practice. I hope he starts, right? Do you see a situation where he is starting, because this linebacking core has been depressing? I don't want to see 58 or 51. I would love to see more Wallow, more Neville Hewitt. And then, well, if Christian Harris is ready to go, then let's see what this, what this 4.4 speed could do.
I'd be pretty surprised if he starts immediately, just because Lovie Smith is old school. I think he really trusts his veterans in that linebacking group. It's why they were re-signed. It's why they continue to play so much, even as they fail gap responsibility time after time. But after a game or two, yeah, I expect Christian Harris to force his way on the field. He's just a different caliber of athlete at this point from the rest of that position group. And as soon as the game slows down for him mentally, we're talking about a very good NFL linebacker. So I'm also excited to see what he brings this week.
Gun in your head, do the Houston Texans undefeated or with the win?
You mean without a win? So
I'm
not
sorry.
undefeated,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
the
I'm sorry.
opposite of undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be winless at the bye. I have a hard time picking them against Jacksonville. I think that Jacksonville matches up really well. They've got two good running backs in James Robinson and Travis Etienne that should be able to eat all day against. It's been a really undisciplined Houston Texans run defense. Their best weapon, Christian Kirk, who looks like he's got a lot of early chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be able to avoid Stingley, go in the slot. And they've got other guys that can beat you. Meanwhile, the pass rush is going to make life hard for Davis Mills. And the way Houston needs to win games, as we saw with the first three games that were really close, is they got to be ugly, and Houston's got to be able to run the ball. And I don't think you're going to be able to just grind this one out. I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence fumbles 5 times like he did last week, but I'm not counting on it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a tough game to watch. This Jacksonville team might be better than what we had thought. John, before I let you go, what are you doing? The Rockets are, are getting started. You write about them as well. Let the fans know what's going on.
About with the Rockets or with my work right now?
Well, both. Don't you also write for the Texans? I'm sorry.
No, I do.
Write about the Rockets.
Yeah, make sure you guys are following at the Texans Wire, at the Rockets Wire. I cover the Texans and the Rockets for USA Today. We're gearing up for probably the same level of excitement for the Rockets. They have some more core young pieces than the Texans have right now. And the matter of fact is, in basketball, when you only have to have 5 guys on the court, it's a lot easier to improve more quickly. Jabari Smith did kind of ball out in his first preseason game, but it was San Antonio. And the hunt is on for Victor Wembanyama. I'm going to have to learn how to say that one, because he looks like the best draft prospect in a long
time.
People who are 7'4" should not be able to shoot like that. But, yeah, make sure you're following that. Give me a follow at John H. Crumpler. Feel free to shoot me a DM, tweet at me. Love to interact with the fans, hear what you guys think of what's going on. And I'll be cheering for the Texans to win this one and right the ship. I want these guys to do well, believe it or not. I had met Davis. We went to high school at the same time in Atlanta. I want him to be that guy, and I'll just be watching just like everyone else, seeing if they can turn this around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, you know me as well. I've been a Davis Mills supporter, so please make us look right, Davis. We want you to succeed, because his story's been crazy. He's not even supposed to be a member of this team, right? But one way or another, we are where we are, looking for our first win of the season. Thank you, John. As always, guys, go Texans. Y'all have a very blessed day.